solving inequality. Now, I want you to do a lot of this math by hand. We're going to use graphs to kind of give us a sense on how to work things out. We will do that. As long as you got that, that's fine. But I don't want you using the intersect feature. If your answers are radical, I want to see the radical. Okay, I want to see the best one. Solve this inequality and graph the solution set. And this one's a pretty straightforward one. X squared plus 5x plus 4, is it factor? Are there factors of 4 that exist that will add to 5? Yes. So how does x squared plus 5x plus 4 factor? X plus 4 and x plus 1. So ignoring the fact there's inequality symbol there, what are your two x values? Now we actually call these, when we're dealing with quadratic inequalities, we actually call these critical points. First off, it can't be an equal symbol, because we don't have that in the setup, right? Setup doesn't have an equal setup. Equal. Those are not true. They're not actually equal. We actually call them critical points. The truth is x is somewhere around them. It might be less than 4 and greater than negative 4 and greater than negative 1. Now what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to plot them on a number line, test around them, but I'm not going to have y'all do that. Let the graph assist you. Okay? Now if you know how to do a little bit of freehand graphing, that's awesome. I'm going to freehand it real quick. You have an intercept at negative 1, an intercept at negative 4. Actually, they're open holes. That's besides the point. This thing going to open up or down? What symbol is in front of x squared? So does it open up or down? Up. So a freehand graph of this thing looks kind of like this. Now the question is where are you greater than 0? Well, that happens in two places on the graph. That happens here, and that happens there. That's where the graph is more than 0. And that's what tells you how to answer. What is x's actual relationship to negative 4? So that y is greater than 0. Well, if x was negative 3, would y be greater than 0? No. What if x was negative 5? So what is x's relationship to the negative 4? Less than. The graph is suggesting that x has to be less than negative 4. You know, if you just looked at your inequality symbol from the start, you may not realize that. Now, what is the graph suggesting about x's relationship to negative 1? Not less than. To the right, kids. It's greater. That's how you write it out using good old inequality form. Everybody know how to write that as an interval?
Because is it saying zeros at the origin?
This is asking you where is this stuff more than 0? More than 0 anywhere on this path. So anywhere where x is greater than negative 1. Like if x was 0, the graph is above 0. So your relationship to that negative 1 has to be to the right. Does anybody know how to write that as an interval? If you're going to be less than negative 4 for your entire life, where are you going to end up at? Negative there. All the way up to that negative 4. There's no equal symbol on that thing. That's a set of parentheses. Remember the interval notation for the word or? U, union with. Can't be the negative 1, so parentheses on it. You're going to be greater than negative 1 for the rest of your life. Where do you go? Infinity. Now, we'll probably do the next one by hand, but we will look at graph and calculator, because I know if I said you guys have to freehand graph all of these, disaster. All right, solve this inequality and graph the solution set. First off, we're going to put it in what form? Standard, that's right. Put in standard. Most of the stuff you do is going to factor. You need factors of -6 that add to -1. They exist. -3, lots of 2. So what are our critical values of x, which I'll call x of c? 3 and -2. You can't just say that x is less than equal to 3 and x is less than equal to -2. You can't just say that. You gotta look and see what the graph suggests. So this one I will do in the calculator with you. Do a zoom 6. Now, if your calculator pops up and says error invalid dimensions, it's because you didn't turn step plots off, like I asked you to. There's your graph, and I'm going to make a little snip of that thing and put it on the board real quick. To do. We're not doing that. We're just typing the equation in as it is, Emily. Just type in x squared minus x minus 6. Your calculator has the symbols in it. It doesn't do any good. It just shades, that's all it does. Did I actually copy that? I'm guessing Miss Dana tried to show you that symbolism last year.
We did everything in that.
Yep, you done forgot it all. That's exactly what happens when you do everything in calculator. I love them, but that's what happens.
We really do.
I've seen kids type in like 1 plus 0 because of a calculator. I'm letting you guys have the assist here. The main reason for the assist is so that you can look at the graph. It's about being less than or equal to what? 0. That's that region of space right there, isn't it? That's telling you that x is in there. What's it trapped between? What is x trapped between? It's trapped between -3 and 2. And pay attention to your original symbolism. Small number on the left, big number on the right. How do you write that thing as a number? Use your brackets. Bracket -2 and 3. Just trying to find something that's not as easy. Of course, we have a word problem coming up, don't we? That one's not too hard. Well, you really don't have any questions in here, do you? I guess we will do, let's see, let's do the one about the student being launched from a catapult. That was on slide 2, wasn't it? Where's the next one, factors? 4, -2, 14, 3. That one factors 2. Let's jump to the catapult, finish it, see what happens. Soviet Russia instructors launched failing students from catapults. I should really write this with China in it now. To help their better students understand parabolic motion, one such student arrived at the following equation by watching his former friend fly through the air. Former, being a key word there. So the height is a function of time is -16t squared plus 80t plus 15, where t is time in the air and h represents the height. Over what interval will the child's height be greater than 40 feet? So I can replace h of t with 40, right? I do need to be thinking about my symbolism here. This is a fixed number, 40. This represents the height of the kid. What do you want this to be? What's its relationship to that 40? Equation is not less than. You might be thinking you're going to write a less than %, but the equation itself is greater than it, isn't it? The equation itself is bigger. I want to be greater. Sorry, it's just greater than that. There's what it looks like on paper. We're going to do this by hand. I'm not going to use the intersect neutron calculator. We'll do it by hand. Now, what form do you want in? Standard. You want to shift everything left or everything right? I really don't care. Shift it right, that's fine. It's like 15 minus 40 is 0.5. So. Now that thing's not going to factor, kids. It's not happening. It won't factor, what can you do? You do a quadratic formula. I want to see that. I want you doing a quadratic formula. I want you to just use the intersect feature. So x would be opposite b, -80, plus or minus square root of an 80 squared minus 4 times a -16 times a -25. All sitting over twice an a. I'm not asking too much. I mean, quadratic formula is not very much. So it don't take long. If you take a real chemistry class, you'll be doing it quite often. You may as well learn it. No offense to your chemistry teachers, it's just not in your standards. I don't expect you to do the little math on the inside by yourself. So that radical was 4,800, that's what I came up with. You guys are in pre-calc. Just try and make things look a little prettier. What's something that might go into 4,800? That you take the square root of it. Tell me something turn about 4,800. You can turn about 48. 1,600 is 48, doesn't it? So that would mean that 1,600 would enter 48. No? It does, doesn't it? Can you take the square root of 1,600? Should. It's probably 1,600. Both of them have roots. What's the square root of 1,600? It is not 400. 40, isn't it? Square 1600 is 40. 4 times 4 is 16. A 0 from each one makes 1600. All right, so negative 80 plus or minus, let's see here. We said that was 40 roots of 3 over negative 32. And the last thing I would do is I would decide what negative 80, 40, and negative 32 all have in common. It's the number 8, I think. Maybe. Possibly. They're all divisible by 8. But anyways, it's going to be a negative 10 plus or minus 5 root 3 over a negative 4. There's your two answers. It's not much, but it's something. You can go to a calculator and you can approximate. Now, I'm not even going to bother looking at the graph on this thing. There's absolutely no point looking at the graph. The kid goes up, kid goes down. So the time that you're greater than 40 is stuck between those two answers, isn't it? You should be able to kind of visualize that in your head. Kid goes up, kid goes down. Somewhere in there is about 40. The actual answer to A is that we're trapped between negative 10. Well, which one's a spot bigger here? Trapped between those two things. Why is the plus 5 root 3 bigger or smaller? Divided by a negative. That's why it's a smaller one. Don't believe me. Type those things in your calculator and see which one's smaller than the other. It's the smaller one. Is that division of a negative? This example B is basically the same thing, so we're not even going to mess with it. Example C is how many seconds does the child have to regret not studying harder? Yes, before the kid hits the ground. So you're going to take the equation and set it equal to what? You're going to take the equation and set it equal to 0. I'm not going to run you through the quadratic formula on this, but you did it with quadratic formula, kids. You'll be done with it. I don't think there's really enough time to do another problem. I want you to do the math by hand. I want you to use the graph to decide where or how to set up your inequality. If you don't like that, I gave you a huge accommodation. I could have said, no, you're going to draw a number line, you're going to plot your points, and you're going to test around them. So I want you to do the math by hand. And I know a couple of you guys still can't do the quadratic formula, so yes, I want you to do the quadratic formula. It's not me being mean, it's because you still can't do the quadratic formula. You need to figure that out when you're in high school. That's it for today. Oh, minus your homework, which is over here by Taylor. You definitely need that. You ain't getting that lucky.
I still don't understand.